Hello again, I'm Matthew from thewetpen.com, and today I have a new Indian fountain pen to show you. I sort of went crazy and bought a ton of new Indian fountain pens recently, I think maybe 8 or 10 of them, but this pen first. This blue box contains a pen from Vazir, one of the new Indian pen companies that's been doing some really impressive work for the past few years. You might remember that last year I made a video about a Vazir fountain pen with a hand-engraved nib. My new pen doesn't have a hand-engraved nib, at least not yet, but it is still unique in my collection. Let me open up this box. The pen arrives in this beautiful blue sleeve, and here we are. This pen is the first one in my collection that's made out of cellulose acetate rather than the more typical acrylics and resins. Let me begin by just showing you this material. The pen is the Vazir Meteor shower, which I think fits this material nicely. Cellulose acetate is not the same thing as celluloid, although it does share some of the same properties. It feels warmer and softer than acrylics, but it's not highly flammable like celluloid is, and it's a bioplastic that is actually biodegradable. Vazir's cellulose acetate comes from the well-regarded Italian makers, Monstercat, who have been making cellulose acetate for 100 years or more. This material has these wonderful streaks of blue and brown with a little magenta thrown in there too. It's really vibrant when it catches the light, but because of the way that the material is made, we get the pattern on the front and back sides of the pen, but it's not really visible on the sides, so we get that interplay of light and dark as we twist the pen. The cap of this pen has a gold-colored clip with a roller end, which is probably my favorite type of clip, and the top of the cap is rounded. There are no metal bands anywhere on the pen, and the barrel of the pen is narrower than the cap, and it tapers gently down to another rounded end. I never would have noticed it without magnification, but down here at the end of the pen, the name Vazir is engraved into the body. The cap unscrews in about 3 turns, which is a little more than I prefer, but it's not too bad, and the cap does post deeply and securely. This cellulose acetate material has a grippy feel to it that's a little hard to describe. It's a little like hard rubber, so the cap grips the barrel nice and securely. Posted, the balance of the pen is just a little towards the cap end, but it's certainly not uncomfortable for my hands. And underneath the cap, we have a very comfortable concave grip section that's made out of the same material. It's about 10.5 millimeters at the waist, and it widens out to about 12 millimeters at both ends. There's a little bit of a step up to the threads, and it's just big enough that some people might feel it when they write, but I didn't notice it at all until I started feeling for it specifically for this review, so overall, I find this to be a perfectly comfortable pen. The nib here is a German Jowo rather than an Indian nib, and this one is a gold-toned broad nib with the Vazir chess piece logo on it. And if you look carefully at the edge of the nib, you can see the capital B that indicates that this is broad. Looking at the other side, the feed is a typical Jowo plastic feed. And because this is a Jowo nib and Jowo nib unit, that means that you can switch out the nib in this pen with any other Jowo nib unit quickly and easily. This Leonardo pen, for example, also uses a Jowo nib, so I can just unscrew this nib unit, and then unscrew the other one in the Vazir, and switch this out, and now I can use this stub nib in the Vazir. But the real reason that I'm even thinking about different nibs is that Vazir is still selling these nibs that are hand engraved, and I think that one of the gold ones would look really stunning in this pen. For now though, this Jowo broad nib is excellent, as they usually are. Most of you will have used Jowo broad nibs before. They're sold in so many different brands of pens, but I'll take a minute to give you a quick writing sample with this one anyway. This ink is the Bungubox Piano Mahogany that I showed you recently, and I'm starting off on Cosmo Air Snow paper. The nib is really nice and smooth, and with a larger nib tip like this, there's not too much drag on the soft surface of this Cosmo paper. Now here, I'm switching over to Midori MD paper, and again, the nib feels really nice, and the flow is exactly as we'd expect from a Jowo nib, not too wet, not too dry. To fill this pen with ink, incidentally, it's simply a matter of unscrewing the grip section to reveal the cartridge converter inside. This one comes with a good quality Schmidt converter. Overall, this is a medium-sized pen, but it's just a little bit on the large side of medium. When it's capped, this pen is 153 millimeters long, which is right around 6 inches, and the widest part of the barrel is about 14.7 millimeters. And with no ink, it weighs 29 grams. For a more practical comparison, here it is next to a Lamy All-Star and a Platinum 3776. And to compare it to some larger pens, here it is next to a Ranga Giant 9B and a Ranga Samurai. I'm really happy with this pen overall, but if I were going to complain about anything, it would be the clip. Not the style or functionality, it's all good there. No, it's just the quality of the finish. If you take a look at the clip on this Leonardo, which is a similarly priced pen, the edges of the clip have all been polished smooth. And also, looking at a pen that costs about a quarter of the price of this Vazir, the whole clip on this Moonman M800 looks really nice and smooth all around too. But if you look at the edges of the clip on this Vazir, they look like the clip was stamped out of sheet metal and then maybe polished on top, but the edges were left raw before it was gold plated. And you can still see a little bit of that raw texture here. Now, I admit it's really only something that you'll notice when you're looking at it magnified like this, so maybe it's not worth mentioning, but with the pen at this price point, I think it's the kind of detail that deserves attention. So there we have it, a beautiful handmade pen made with a material that doesn't really look like any other on the market, and it's also comfortable and writes well. These are currently priced at $125 US, which is pretty reasonable for a handmade pen of this quality. Vazir pens really just keep getting better. And that's it. I do have several more Indian fountain pens to show you, but I'll get back to my Japanese video series first. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The rest of my pens won't be too far off. I hope that you're all enjoying the spring weather out there, and I'll see you back here soon with another video in the Japan series. Take care everyone, and enjoy your fountain pens and ink.